Yo, what up, everybody? It's Blessed Mindset. We back with another live video. We gonna wait for a few people to hop in before we start going crazy. Before we start the lecture. We gonna wait about 5 minutes. Join the live, guys. Join the live. How women select men in the dating market. Join the live, guys. Join the live. We going live every Friday at 6 p.m. Join the live, guys. Join the live. We going live at 6 p.m. every single Friday. We gonna wait for a few people to hop in. And if y'all disagree with me, then I'll add you on Zoom. Or if you just want to have a convo, I'll add you on Zoom and we'll have a conversation. Join the live, guys. Join the live. We're waiting for a few people to hop in and then we're going to start the lecture. And if you guys disagree, I will be adding you guys. And then we can have a convo about it. Let's see. Join the live, guys. We're going to start the lecture in about 2 minutes. We're going to start the lecture in about 2 minutes. How women select men in the dating market. You guys agree with me? I'll add you guys and we can have a convo. If you disagree, we'll do the same thing. Simple, simple, simple. One more minute, guys, and then we're going to start this video up. Join up, share the video. We dropping vids. We dropping reaction vids every Mondays at 5 p.m. and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And then the live show is 6 p.m. on Fridays. So join up, guys. Join up. Alrighty, guys. We're going to go ahead and start this lecture off. So, This lecture is based on how women mate select in the dating market today. A lot of men are confused on what women want, what's their preferences, and I think it's very important to touch on these topics, because if men are not aware of these issues, then they're more likely to not give women what they want and not be attractive to women, right? So let's get into this. So, the introduction. The idea is to use Steven Pinker's research to challenge the blank slate, use David Buss's theories to explain women's mate strategy, and explore hypergamy. Hypergamy just means dating up in status. We're going to look at Dr. David Buss' mate switching hypothesis. We're going to ask why men must become competent to compete in the dating market. We're going to use a red pill lens as a description, not an ideology. And we're going to connect evolved psychology to today's dating market. Remember, guys, when we're talking about hypergamy, right? On average, women tend to want a guy who's taller, stronger, have more resources on average. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that women are materialistic. It's the fact that most women want kids, so they need a strong provider that's going to be able to take care of their seeds. It's a huge difference. A lot of men think women are gold diggers and things in that nature, but this is not true, right? Women aren't gold diggers. They just need a leader, a strong man that's willing to provide for their children. Women bear the burden of reproduction, so they need a strong man. So, what is the red pill? The red pill is a framework that emphasizes biological realities, incentives, and power dynamics in male-female relationships over idealized social narratives. So I love this definition right here, right? Because my guy Andrew Wilson put this into the perfect definition. The red pill is not a prescriptive ideology. It's a set of descriptors, a data packet about how dynamics tend to work. People then add their own prescriptions on top of it. So when we're talking about prescriptions versus descriptions, right? A lot of people think that when the red pill makes claims, it's always saying what should be and what ought to be. This is an incorrect framework, guys. The red pill is just describing what is. The red pill isn't saying that women are bad for wanting these traits in a man, such as having more money. It's just what is, right? So that is what the red pill is about, just giving descriptors, not prescriptors, right? So we are about to go into Rollo Tomasi's ideology. Well, Rollo Tomasi's ideas of the red pill. He is the godfather of the red pill. The red pill equals understanding intersexual dynamics through evolutionary psychology. It focuses on sexual selection, mate strategies, and observable patterns. It rejects romantic myths in favor of adaptive behavior. Remind you guys, a lot of guys are living in this idealistic world where they think that they can just be themselves and they're able to get women. This is incorrect, right? To get the woman that you want, you have to be competent. You have to learn how to be responsible. You have to learn women nature, right? If not, then you're less likely to procreate. The connection to natural selection. Natural selection preserves traits that increase reproductive success. The red pill argues dating functions similar. They are traits that attract are selected, others are ignored. Both are descriptive systems. They explain outcomes, not moral ideals. So this is very important to understand. The idea of natural selection is that the individuals who have the strongest traits tend to reproduce more. And this is going to even animals, right? Because we have our biological nature is animalistic. So the men with the strongest traits tend to reproduce more than other men on average. Bottom line, the red pill, like natural selection, describes what survives, not what should. So, in this next slide, we get deeper into the theories of natural selection, right? These are traits that help people survive, attract mates, and raise children, become common over generations. The mind evolved to solve adaptive problems in ancestral environments. Mating is a key adaptive domain. Men and women faced different reproductive costs, right? So like I said before, the men with the strongest traits tend to be more likely to get the girls and be able to, produce a family. So we have to ask the philosophical question, what are these traits that women tend to desire, right? And we're going to definitely get into that. So, this next slide, I read this book. It was called The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker, evolutionary psychologist. And this book intrigued me so much, right? Steven Pinker talked about how there are biological innate traits within us humans that are foundational, right? And the problem with society now is that everybody thinks that everything is a social construct and we can just socially construct our morals, we can socially construct our biology, we can socially construct everything. This is incorrect, right? We are born with certain genetics and traits that have an impact on our lives. And I'm not saying that these biological traits are everything, but they do have an influence in our everyday lives, right? So, the blank slate claims humans are born with no innate mental structures. Pinker's argument, humans are not empty slates. The mind begins with a biological design shaped by evolution. DNA provides the built-in capacities for thinking, learning, feeling, and behaving. Evidence. Twin and adoption research shows strong genetic influences on personality, IQ, and behavior. The brain contains innate instincts and predispositions, not just what culture writes onto it. So you got to understand. I was just having this argument in this meetings I go to. It's called the Socrates Cafe. Are humans shaped by biology and culture? A lot of people think it's only culture. That's incorrect. It's shaped by biology and culture. There's a nature and nurture foundation to both, right? For example, LeBron James' genetics LeBron James' genetics make him more likely to be taller on average, right? Because of his biological nature, right? But he grew up in an environment where a lot of people play basketball. So he was more likely to be on the court and hoop, right? So basketball is the social construction because we create basketball. But his genetics and his tallness, right? That's his biological structure that nature gave him. So it's nature and nurture. Consistent patterns across all cultures, emotions. Consistent patterns across all cultures, emotions, language structures, family system, moral institutions point to a shared human natures. Implication for mating. If the mind has an evolved design, then sex differences in mate preferences can reflect adaptations, not just culture. And if you guys have any questions, please put them down in the comments below. And I got the Zoom link in the description. So if you guys want to, challenge me or just have a discussion with me, join the Zoom and we'll definitely have a discussion on this. So this guy David Buss, he's evolutionary psychologist from the University of Texas. This guy's a genius. I read his work in depth, and he makes strong arguments. He demonstrates how culture and biology influences women's mating preferences. Women place greater emphasis on financial prospects, social studies, ambition, and industriousness in a mate. Men prioritize cues to fertility. Women prioritize cues to resource acquisition. Men risk investing in rivals' offspring, while women risk losing male resources. Now, this is very important to know, because there's this theory that goes around that men don't like women with a high body count, and Dr. David Buss actually proves this, because the reason why is because back in the day, right, before there was any paternity tests, a man couldn't know if his woman got pregnant by another man. That man had to put faith in his wife that she didn't cheat on him. And this is what David Buss is talking about. Men risk investing in rivals' offspring, right? Because men don't want to put resources in a child that's not theirs, right? So this is huge, guys. This is huge. And women risk losing male resources. So back in their back before technology, and when men and women were hunters and gatherers, women needed male resources because it was harder for a woman to fight off predators or other men, because they had to take care of the kids. If they're pregnant, they're going to be more vulnerable on average. So they needed a strong man with resources. Now it's different. But Dr. David Buss is saying that these evolutionary traits are passed down from generation to generation. And that's why women are still attracted to men that are competent and get to the top of the hierarchy. These are the reasons why, because it's in women's evolutionary DNA. Women's mating strategies. In our evolutionary past, a woman who chose a flighty, impulsive, or unstable man risks raising children alone without steady resources or protection. So women needed a strong man, a man that was loyal to them. They couldn't choose a man that was very Machiavellian, because that man might sleep with her and then leave her. And now she has to take care of a child by herself. But nowadays, there's a lot of states that they allow abortions. So you can see the differences between the cultural part and the biological part, right? This pressure favored women who preferred dependable men capable of acquiring and sharing resources. Today, that impulse still, many women are drawn to men who are taller, stronger, and socially successful. Like I said, these traits are ingrained in women's DNA. Right? They're ingrained in women's DNA. And men as well, right? Men still have biological traits passed down from their ancestors that are like that. You know, men want a woman who is more fertile because they're more likely to produce healthy children, right? It's in both men and women. It's not just women. So men who rise in status hierarchies often become more attractive because they signal resources, confidence, and leadership. So that's why I prescribe to men all the time that you have to become the best version of yourself. Because if not, then you're less likely to procreate. And most men want to procreate. Most men want to have a family, right? And women want these things too. But the problem is that the other sex doesn't care about what the other sex wants in a relationship. Women don't care about what men want, and men don't care about what women want. They only think about themselves and care about what they want. This is a huge problem because we are trying to establish healthy communities. That's the goal, guys. So, what is hypergamy? Women evolve to prefer partners with higher status, ambition, and resource potential. Cross-cultural data, 37 cultures, show women consistently chose older, higher earning, and more stable men. Women on average want a man who's 4 to 7 years older than themselves. And you're going to ask, but why is that? They do that because it takes a little bit of time for men to develop the traits to be attractive to women and to get the resources that they need, right? So, like I said from the beginning, it's not that women are just materialistic. They just want stable men. They don't they don't want to get pregnant and have a man not take care of their child. High status men become more attractive because they signal provision, protection, and long-term investment. Men swipe right on Tinder 46% of the time, while women swipe right only 14% of the time. This is a huge statistic, guys, because this shows that hypergamy is real. Women are looking for a relationship with a long-term partner, right? And they don't want that person to be not competent, not helpful, right? They look at a man as like, oh, they want leaders, basically. They want men that are the example, that set the example. They want a man who is confident. They want a man who is competent. And they want a man who accomplishes his goals. What is the mate switching hypothesis? According to Dr. David Buss, the mate switching hypothesis is when a person cheats to upgrade their partners. One of the main reasons why women cheat is that they are trying to find a new partner. 70% of women in affairs fall in love, supporting the mate switching hypothesis, meaning that women, when they cheat, they tend to seek relationships, not just sexual encounters with random men. Now, guys, if you really put this into perspective, the women that cheat, they're not cheating just to have sex with multiple men. They are cheating to find a new partner. So if you're getting cheated on, you might not be doing what you're supposed to do. You might not be hitting that gym enough. You might not be making enough income. You might not be stimulating her sexually. There's a lot of things that you can do to mitigate risks when it comes down to cheating. Men have to start taking accountability when they get cheated on. Because it's either you chose the wrong partner, or on a bounds of probabilities, you're not handling your responsibility as a man. Because as you look at this data right here, women are cheating to find new relationships. Right? And this is not all women. This is not all women, right? But we're just talking about the women who cheat. A decline in a male's partner's mate value can trigger a woman to switch mates. Women often keep backup mates, opposite sex friends who have long-term partner qualities. So you gotta watch out if a woman tends to have an opposite friend of the opposite sex, because data shows that she might be trying to seek a relationship with that man, right? And as you see from this stat up here, a decline in a partner's mate value can trigger a woman to switch mates. So if, let's say that, you know, you're handling your duties as a man, and then you end up not handling those duties. Like, let's say that you have a job, a good job, you're working every day, you're providing for your family, and then you end up you stop going to work. You know, now you're not handling your duties as a man. So that can actually make a woman switch partners because she's looking for stability and security. And she's not wrong for doing so. Why would she stay with you, bro? You're not handling your responsibilities, brother. We need strong leaders in the household. We need men that are responsible and competent. That's why I always advocate for marriage and the nuclear family. Because them two-parent households tend to create the strongest households. Right? So if you're not handling your duties and responsibilities, your wife is more likely to cheat on you, bro. Because not just because she wants just a bunch of like just sexual encounters with random men. It's because you're not handling your responsibilities and she's seeking for stability. And she's seeking for a family. That's what she wants. So, this is my prescription to men. Men must become competent. Sometimes it's not about how tall you are. It's not about how much dough you got. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. You got to wake up every single day and fulfill your purpose and duty as a man. You got to put faith in your higher self and chase the ideal. Because if not, families suffer. It's on men to become those leaders. I was reading Dr. Cornel West's book. You know what he said? He said the two biggest downfalls of the black community is the lack of leadership and meaninglessness in the communities. And that's as true as possible. We need more leaders. Cats like MLK. Cats like Malcolm X. Cats like Thomas Sowell. The downfall of men is causing a lot of destructions to our community. So that's why we need men to become more responsible, more skillful. Wake up every day and seek purpose. Men face strong pressure to prove competence through results, or they risk being seen as less desirable to partners. Men must build skills that reliably create value for others. Men must demonstrate steady emotional regulation in daily life. Men who refuse to take on responsibility usually get filtered out of the dating pool. Listen, guys. Women got like 20 dudes in their DMs, bro. They tend to always have a lot of like, they're more likely to get hit up on average, bro. So we have to pursue women. So if the women have a bunch of dudes just coming up to them, cat calling them every day, what's making you stick out? What are you gonna do to make sure you don't get filtered out of the dating pool? You must become competent. You must be responsible. You must have your shit in place. Why are you trying to get in a relationship if you don't got a car, if you don't got a crib? If you don't got your things handled, how are you going to even handle a family? You're responsible for that family. I don't prescribe men to go out and have sex with a bunch of women. No. I prescribe two-parent households. I prescribe men to become competent and get their shit together before they get into a relationship. That's what I prescribe. If you're not ready, don't get into that relationship, because you're responsible for your relationship. Invest in her well-being and their future children. That's what you got to do. You got to invest in her future children. That's what women want, is a family. Men who lead with purpose and not just talk. Send strong cues of confidence and dominance. You must be confident when you're speaking to women. You gotta know the truth. You gotta believe in yourself. If you don't have confidence, women won't even respect you, bro. They sense it. Right? You gotta learn how to speak the truth to women. Jordan Peterson said, if you lie, you're not living your life. You're living the life of the spirit of the lie. So, you can't be a true man and you're scared to tell your woman that you want to have relations with other women, or you're sitting here texting other women on the side. You're creating a unhealthy household, bro. You're creating an unstable crib, bro. You're telling your woman one thing, but really she's living in delusion because she's believing everything that you're saying, but you're having other women on the side. If you're such a man, tell her. You know, I respect men at least that say, hey, it's open on my end and closed on your end. Take it or leave it. I respect that nigga more than the niggas that lie. Now, I don't prescribe that. Don't do it. But if you're too scared to tell women the truth, you're the one that's living in delusion, bro. Because you're the one shook. I get on here every day. I'm debating people on politics and God and religion. I'm not scared of getting canceled, bro. I'm not scared. But niggas is over here scared of telling a girl that they text another girls. You're shook, bro. Just don't do it, bro. You're fucking up the communities, bro. And that's the truth. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the communities, bro. I'm looking at where society needs to be. You have to give up the present for the better future. And that's what I'm trying to teach young men. That's why that's why men need to follow God. Become competent. Become skillful. And learn how to stick to virtues, bro. Become noble. All these people lying and telling women they gonna take care of them and go around and sleeping with other women. You're just creating hell on earth, bro. Stop lying to these women. Keep it G. Right? And that's why our communities are so fucked up now, bro. But I would say this too. Going back to women. Women, you need to lower your standards, bro. You don't need a top tier guy making 6 figures. You don't need a 6-foot man. You know how many men are actually 6 feet in the United States of America? Only 14%. It's a small percentage. And that's not even adding if the guy's attractive. That's not even adding if the guy got money. You're already dealing with 14% of the population just based off of height alone. Women, you need to lower your standards. And men, you need to stop lying to these women. And you need to become competent. So I have criticisms on both sides because I'm a real nigga. And I'm not scared to get canceled. And I play fair ball. But both of the genders need to get their shit together so we can create a better society. In conclusion, the human mind is not a blank slate. Evolution, not just culture, shaped our mating psychology. So like I said before, it's nature and nurture, guys. It's nature and nurture. Biology plays a part, and culture plays a part, and psychology. There's just so many different factors that go into why women want the men that they want. Women are on average more selective, especially for long-term partners. They prefer men who are more reliable, higher in status, and resourceful. And that's true. Listen, girls are more selective, so women are more likely to deny men than men are to deny women. So that's where I have criticisms of women, because your standards are too high. There are plenty of good men out there that work regular, decent jobs who will stay faithful to you. You don't need a man that's making six figures. You don't need a man that is 6 feet tall and all of these other characteristics. It's the ideal, but it's not what you need. Hypergamy is real, and women often prefer partners with equal or higher status, ambition, and stability. Men must become skillful to procreate. When women cheat, they seek better partners. And last but not least, men are less likely to have children if they don't reach higher social status. Right? And that was the end of the presentation, guys. So, to sum it all up, women are more, they're more selective, right? They don't want just anybody to procreate with. They need a strong man. They need a competent man, a man who's smarter, and that's why they tend to date equal or up in status, right? Women are more vulnerable on average because they bear the burden of reproduction. They take the risk of getting pregnant and taking care of children. Men are more riskier on average, right? Hey, thank you so much, Lise. I appreciate it a lot. You know, shout out my sister Lise. She creates all of my posts and stuff like that. She's behind the scenes with it. But like I said, guys, men need to become more competent, more confident, and develop the traits that it takes so they can be attractive to women. Women need to lower their standards and find a good man, because we don't live in an idealistic world. We live in a world where we need two-parent households. We need structured families to produce good, smart, healthy children. So there's criticisms that I give on both sides of the spectrum. So listen, guys, thank you so much for watching this presentation, man. I appreciate it. You know, I hope you guys learned a lot, you know, and I'm still learning. So if you guys have any comments, go ahead and put them down below, or join the Zoom if you disagree with anything that I said during the presentation, or agree, and I will add you on Zoom and we can have a conversation right here. Um, Chat from my sister Elise. That was very good. Thank you so much, Elise. I appreciate it a lot. You always show me mad love, and it's very much appreciated. It's very, very much appreciated. So is there any questions that you guys have? Even if you guys don't want to hop on Zoom and have a conversation with me, just type in a question down below about men and women, or maybe not even a question, just speak how you feel. If you feel like men ain't doing what they need to do, put it in the comments. Women ain't doing what they do, put it in the comments, and I will read your comments out loud. I give everybody a fair shot. Is there anybody that wants to join up on Zoom and have a conversation? I put the Zoom link down below, guys. Let's see. Hi, Auntie. Thank you so much for joining the live. I appreciate it a lot, and I appreciate the support every single time. You don't never gotta come in and watch, but I thank you so much for doing so. It makes me happy. Chat from my sister. Do you think men who have some of these bad traits can change? Yes, I do. I do think the bad traits that they have tend to be more social constructs, right? The men that are Machiavellian, they tend to manipulate women. You know, it tends to be taught at a young age, right? They probably grew up without a father, and if they did grow up with their father, maybe they was just, taught wrong, right? Their father taught them wrong. So those bad traits, they can change for sure. But you got to understand, like, younger men are more likely to be Machiavellian and narcissistic. So you got to wait until they probably hit the ages like after, well, Jordan Peterson said around after there was like 28, 29, and then they start to actually get more socialized. A lot of young men tend to seek power because, well, they see how girls, sometimes it's just bitterness and resentfulness. You know what I'm saying? So they see how girls act, or they just trying to get money and a bunch of girls, right? So there's many different reasons why men will be narcissistic and Machiavellian, but it's not like these traits tend to be inherited. The inherited traits tend to be more genetic, like their height, or like what else, like like strength differences, or sometimes IQ levels. So it's not like there's bad traits that somebody can just inherit, right? But that's an amazing question. That's an amazing question. And you gotta watch out. You guys gotta watch out for the Machiavellian men. Those guys will ruin your life because they tend to seek power and dominance, and that's not what we want in our communities, right? We want men that are more balanced, like men that are like are willing to stick up for women and the the children, right? But not men that are like gonna manipulate their peers and take what they want, because they're not likely to share their resources, right? They're just narcissistic. They're gonna take everything for themselves. So, is there any other questions before we get off? I'm gonna wait a few more minutes since we don't have too many interactions. I'm only gonna wait a few more minutes because we 50 minutes in. We're 50 minutes in. Any more questions, or anybody want to join this Zoom meeting? If not, I'm gonna just hop off and we'll call it a night. But I think we got a lot done today, you know. We got a lot done. Another chat from Elise. Are men either one way or the other, or could they be a mixture? Yeah, I think they could be a mixture. They can definitely be a mixture. Um, it all depends on the man, right? A man could have narcissistic traits, but he's not like he can be narcissistic, but he could have other good traits as well to kind of like balance it out in a sense, right? Like he could want everything for himself, right? But then he could only like care for his daughter, right? And it's a weird thing, right? With like being narcissistic, because sometimes the narcissist can actually be a good provider to his own children, but he's not a good guy to the community, right? And that it's so weird with those type of terms, right? Because if you're not willing to give to the community too, it's kind of like you're still narcissistic, but not to the narcissistic degree, to the point where you have to really get diagnosed, right? So when I think of like men who are extremely unreliable and not competent, right? These men could be unreliable and incompetent, but they can actually show you like love. They can like give compassion out. Like let's say a man lives with his mom and has no resources. It doesn't mean that that man isn't going to love you, right? He can really love you, call you every day and tell you the sweetest things in the world. But he's just not that provider. So it can be a mixture of both. And that's where it's like, a gamble, because sometimes you're kind of waiting for that man to become competent, and you're waiting for that man to become responsible, but then he ends up not being that. And that's why I really feel bad for women, because they gamble it. And there's some gambles that's better than others, right? If you see traits that are like bad early on, you got to take some responsibility as a woman, because some girls go for guys who are just completely like got all the girls, and they know he's smashing all these girls and still end up messing with him. And that's just a bad gamble, right? But then there's women that are like, they'll talk with a guy and he's a good guy at first, but then betrays her later on, right? So it's a risky thing. It's a risky thing that I can't put my finger on. But we all take that risk, even as us men, because I can get a good girl. She got a degree, she got, her stuff together, and then she ends up cheating on me and leaving me because I don't have enough status, right? So it's always gonna be a gamble, and if you lose in the gamble, it doesn't mean that you're a loser. It just it just showed that you just got kind of manipulated, and you're not the dummy because you
So
made a good gamble. So don't think that you're dumb for taking that gamble. It's just sometimes the slot machine wins. It's their house. That's how you got to look at it. You're not dumb for doing these things. I got played many times. I used to talk to girls and you know what I'm saying? They finessing me out slushies and candy and all these other things. It's just I got played so many times where I learned the game. And that's where experience comes into place. Especially for a man, you got to learn the traits early on so you don't get played. So, like I said, it's a tough gamble. But thank you so much, Lise, for engaging. I appreciate it a lot. I appreciate it a lot. We are hour in, guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream. Thank everybody who tuned in for the lecture, and I'm gonna catch y'all real soon, man. I'm gonna upload this at 12 p.m. tomorrow for anybody who missed the live stream. So it's gonna be on my YouTube channel. Please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Blessed Mindset, man. I love y'all, man. Peace out.